Invite on stage a gentleman who in his country offers high-quality solutions for R&D and business development-related needs of public and private sector organizations active in the complementary and alternative medicine sector. He is founder of the International Institute for Integrated Medicine and the World Integrated Medicine Forum. He worked for and has been providing consultancy services to the homeopathic, herbal, and anthroposophic pharmaceutical industry, as well as public sector organizations for over 25 years. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a big round of applause for Dr. Robbert van Haselen, as he will throw some light on homeopathy as a practice in the global scenario.
I would like to thank Dr. Nitish very much for inviting me to such an event with such an esteemed list of esteemed guests. And I feel especially honored to be the only non-Indian guest to be invited. So thank you very much. So to very briefly say something about myself, I'm of Dutch origin. And I've been dedicated my career to research and development of homeopathy. And I've been doing this for the past 35 years. I live in France, I've lived in the UK, and at the moment I'm active in many countries around the world, including in the United States, European countries, and the last 5 years quite intensively and increasingly intensively also with India. Now, I'm principally someone specialized in science and research and development, but I'm not going to give a scientific lecture here. But of course, when I attend international events, people ask, well, say something about homeopathy in Europe. What can you say something about homeopathy in Europe? And I always think that's a very difficult question to answer, because should I say something about Germany, where the country of homeopathy was founded? Should I say something about France, where homeopathy is used enormously widely by the French population? Or the UK? And so I usually end up saying something about a country called Switzerland. Now, you may wonder why Switzerland? Because Switzerland is in a way similar to India, in the sense that within the European countries, it is the country where homeopathy is the most integrated in all European countries. And with integrated, I mean that the practitioners, the medicines, the educational system, they all recognize homeopathy and they regulate homeopathy. Now, we have to ask the question, and also healthcare coverage. So health insurance in Switzerland is also covered. But we have to ask the question, was it always like that in Switzerland? And only 12 years ago, some of you who know, familiar in the homeopathy scene, know that there was a publication in the Lancet which said that homeopathy is just a placebo. And the Lancet, being one of the world's leading journals, they had an editorial which stated the end of homeopathy. And the authors of this study came from Switzerland. And so I'm not going to talk about the scientific data, but what has been shown subsequently is that the people who claim that homeopathy is a placebo, they have to discard 95% or more of the available data to reach the conclusion that homeopathy is a placebo. So if they include the good quality studies, homeopathy is not a placebo. But the main thing is that they wanted to remove homeopathy in Switzerland out of healthcare insurance. They wanted to push homeopathy out of the country effectively. So what happened? Now, some of you may know that in Switzerland you have a system of referenda. It means that there's important issues that they go to the population and they say, please, population of Switzerland, please vote. And so they asked the people to vote on homeopathy, acupuncture, and a number of other traditional complementary systems. And what was the answer of the population of Switzerland? It was an overwhelming and resounding, yes, we want this homeopathy, we want this. So over a period of 10 years where homeopathy was under threat in Switzerland, now it's being the most integrated of all countries. And the real driving force was not the homeopaths themselves, not the doctors, not the scientists. No, it was the population. And so this is what we call voting with your feet. And India, I think, is also a country where patients are voting with their feet. And if you allow patients to vote with their feet, you see what happens in India, that homeopathy is very popular, very widely integrated and accepted. So patients vote for homeopathy. But interestingly, if the governments vote for homeopathy, it's also been demonstrated that it doesn't add the cost. No, it actually reduces the healthcare cost of the healthcare systems. Because studies in France and Switzerland have shown that when you compare doctors that use homeopathy, they will use less antibiotics. So the doctors that use homeopathy, they cost something, but they use less antibiotics, they use less conventional medicines. So overall, homeopathy is cost effective. So in that sense, India is definitely a leading country in the world, together with Switzerland. But not all patients in India can vote with their feet. A recent study in India revealed that only 37% of the Indian population live within 5 kilometers of a clinic of patients where they can have access to a doctor. Also, 80% of doctors live in urban areas. And in effect, they serve only 28% of the population. So there's an enormous gap. And so there's a problem with access to healthcare. And so this brings me to Dr. Nitish, because I think what's illustrated here is that to have wider access to healthcare, we need innovation. And in general, innovation is very important in homeopathy. We need people who are forward-looking. We need people who say, well, yes, homeopathy is a wonderful system, and what we do now is good enough. No, we need people who look forward and say, how can we do it better? How can we innovate technologically? How can we improve the way we treat our patients? How can we improve our repertories? So the mind of an innovator, I think, is exemplified by Dr. Nitish, because he's very dynamic, very active, and very forward-looking. So I think this app can have a major role in improving access to healthcare. So I would like to